I want to talk about a topic I've been exploring on my own of being wrong, of feeling wrong. So I'm not just talking about a rational thing of this idea of, I am wrong with the facts, like whatever I believe contradicts what somebody else believes or somebody else's interpretation of the facts or whatever it is. It's something much deeper. It's a feeling of just being wrong, like there's something wrong with me, like I failed, like I'm fundamentally missing something that I think other people might have that I don't have. I think this is a pretty common thing. In fact, I believe it is endemic in our world. That's the conclusion I came to as I've worked on letting go of, releasing my own feeling of wrongness. I've looked around and said, wow, like I've been steeped in this broth of wrongness since I was born, probably before I was born, in the womb or whatever. Or if you believe in, previous incarnations, maybe even in those incarnations as well. But this idea, like, that we are steeped in this thing of like, you are limited and wrong from birth, like really all of us. I can't think of anybody who escapes that wicked brew. I'm not going to say witch's brew because I think witches have been maligned unnecessarily. But anyway, that brew, that toxic brew is a better word for that. It's crazy because if we look at religion, so many religions, not all, but many religions say to us, well, look, you are a sinner from birth. You can't help but be a sinner. You start out insufficient. You start out broken. You start out wrong. You start out needing to make up for your sins already because you are a sinner at birth. You are broken. You are wrong. And so what does that produce in people who grow up being told that, well, the only way that you can escape this is by doing all this stuff, by following exactly the rules that some authority tells you, their own interpretation of what the rules are, and they tell you, just follow these rules exactly, and you will no longer be a sinner. You will suddenly be saved from your sin. But you can only do that by following me. That's the only way. Okay, so you might say this is only a religious problem. But then, just yesterday, I was seeing a comment that somebody made talking about somebody who wasn't talking about and doesn't seem to be coming from a religious perspective, who was talking about climate change and how we are destroying ourselves. Now, this isn't about debating the reality of climate change. I do believe that we humans are having an impact on the climate and it might be having some negative effects, okay? So those are facts or potential facts, depending on your viewpoint on those things, all right? But this isn't about the facts. This is about this fundamental statement that I see from so many people who aren't religious, who would be considered educated and, some of them academic, but not all, often liberal, but not always, who are just like, we humans, we mess everything up. We screw it all up. We screw up the climate, we screw up our food supply, we screw up the environment, we do everything wrong. We don't deserve a good life because we've just screwed it up. Now, right here, I want to show you those geese. I don't know if you can see those geese. Those geese are just living their lives. Are they wrong? Are they wrong? Do any animals that you can think of, I couldn't think of any animals on the planet that we know of besides human beings, sit around thinking, I am wrong. I'm broken from birth, steeped in a brew of brokenness? No, they don't. The only animals on the planet that I could think of that maybe have some of that going on, some of that kind of trauma of brokenness, are animals affected by humans. Animals who are affected by broken humans who have taken on this internalized sense of wrongness, which we all do to some degree, and then they take it out on their animals. And then there are abused pets or skittish pets. Those are the only animals who feel in any way wrong about their lives. Like, what's the deal? And you could say, well, okay, then you're just saying that we are wrong in thinking we're wrong. And that's not at all the point, because that's just taking on more wrongness. As I started looking around the world, thinking about everything that's going on, there's so much of our leaders who, and by leaders, I don't just mean political, I mean industrial, capitalist, whatever leaders that are out there who are, I believe, chasing things like wealth, chasing things like fame, fortune, power, to try to offset that deep internal shame of being wrong, of feeling wrong. I recently was reading about and hearing about the Hopi prophecies. The Hopi prophecies, it's like the blue star Kachina. It's a prophecy that says humanity, and this is just my understanding. I have not carefully researched this, so please, don't go after me if I got something a little bit wrong. But my understanding is that they say we are in the fourth world, meaning that humanity has had previous iterations of our existence, and that in previous iterations we have destroyed ourselves. Think maybe Atlantis could be one, possibly, I don't know. But that we've destroyed ourselves. And this is another go-round that we are in right now, in the fourth world, the fourth iteration, and that this time is the time of moving into the fifth world. And by the way, for those of you who are interested, this prophecy, supposedly we have fulfilled all of the signs except for one, the final sign of their prophecy that was written, hundreds of years ago about what would happen. We have fulfilled all of the signs except for one, in a very pretty technical order. There's a person on YouTube that I occasionally follow who can be kind of far out there, but who has worked on a book about this. Her name is, she goes by the handle of Stargirl. I'm pretty sure it's Stargirl on YouTube. And she was talking about that recently, but I've heard about it from other sources as well. So how that relates to this wrongness is, think about the embedded, cultural memory. If humans really have created societies where we somehow destroyed ourselves, somehow fell. Let's just take an example of the mythical, which may not be mythical, Atlantis, that, grew to this great society and then fell. And then us feeling terrible about, what is our problem? Why can't we get it right? Why can't we do this? What is wrong with us? We're just incompetent because we keep failing at this. What if that gets embedded in our cultural memory, but perhaps even in our genetic memory? Now think about that. As somebody who's worked on the Human Genome Project, so I know a few things about DNA and stuff, it's just interesting saying that out loud here in that way. But anyway, there's this thing called epigenetics. And epigenetics are like little marks on the DNA that modulate the expression of DNA. And it has been shown more and more that things like, if your ancestors undergo famine, they can leave epigenetic marks related to that famine, related to their response to that famine, and maybe needing to overeat more to prepare for famine, they can leave those epigenetic marks and pass them on to the next generation. Furthermore, epigenetic marks can actually sometimes seem to relate to actual literal DNA changes that can be then passed on for many generations. So think about that possibility of, wow, this could be wound into our very DNA, this sense of failure, of we are not good enough, we have failed times, and we feel bad. We feel incompetent. I think this is the core of imposter syndrome, like which I've had a lot of in my life. Like when I got to the top, the pinnacle of my science career and had a big lab and all of that, all of this funding, I was like, what did I do to deserve this? Am I really good enough for this? This fundamental questioning. I mean, I questioned myself more when I was, quote, at the top than any time before. I didn't question myself as much before that. It was once I achieved more success that I felt more of that, like, oh no, the other shoe is going to drop. Oh no, maybe I don't deserve this. Where is that coming from? I think there is this fundamental thing baked into our cake, baked into the brew. Now, I'll just mention the conspiracy theory part, which again, to reemphasize, I am not a conspiracy theorist, but I believe sometimes that there are negative, you could call them energies, negative consciousnesses who take advantage of situations like this. Because if you have somebody, or let's say a whole species or a whole race, who is down on themselves and think, well, I failed again, I'm pretty incompetent, I'm not very good at this stuff, then you can easily step in and say, well, I'm good at this stuff, just follow me. I've got it figured out for you. Just hand over your power to me. I'll be the authority, I'll be the expert, and I'll take care of everything for you. Opens the door completely to abuse and manipulation. That is a society we have lived in for hundreds of years, if not more. One where authorities, experts, all of those people who claim to have the truth and know everything, especially in the top areas of government, religion, you name it, academia, science, technology, those people who say, we have it figured out, you just give over your power to us. You give your money to us, you give your information to us, you give your whatever to us, and we'll take care of you. And here we are, 2026. How's that working out for us? Not so good. Not so good. If you look around at the world. And that's the problem. Like if it all starts with us feeling wrong inside, and then because we feel wrong about like, oh, we're so terrible, we shouldn't be doing this, we shouldn't be doing that, we should just, then that feeling begets circumstances that create more of that feeling. I have been, one of the things, I know it's more popular to talk about politics on YouTube. One of the reasons I don't really talk directly about politics is because I can't stand listening to so much of it right now. I mean, I know, it's not that I'm ignoring that there are things going on that are that I'm unhappy with. It's just that if I go into, let's say, somebody who is a creator who is talking about what's going on with, like here in the US, with our government, and they're saying, so-and-so, the orange guy, did, and by the way, sometimes I I wear a lot of orange, it works well on me, and then I'm like, do I really want to do that? Like, is this a problem, like to be wearing orange? Anyway, so let's say there's somebody who's deriding the actions of the orange guy. Okay, or his other people. Then often it's like, look at how wrong they are. Look at how wrong he is. Look at how wrong this all is. It's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. So then I'm like, wait, if the problem is that that person or those people deep inside felt wrong from birth, they were steeped in it, in their families, growing up, and probably again in past lives, they were steeped in this brew of wrongness. And so their whole lives have been striving to prove I'm not wrong. I just have to get more money. I just have to get another of those Nobel Prizes. I just have to get another. And then I will be right. I will be right because I will have it all. I will have all of the people looking at me and saying, you are so right. So they're searching for it in money, in fame, in sex, in even abusing others, whatever allegedly, that might have happened. I don't know what happened. I have no idea. I haven't read the e-files or anything. So this is all just hearsay and allegedly and all of that. I have to be careful these days. So, wow. So they are doing all of this stuff to try to offset a feeling of wrongness, and yet here people are on the other side attacking and saying wrong, 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 wrong. And then they say, no, you're wrong. And then they say, no, you're wrong. And then there's more wrong, and there's more wrong. And we build on wrong on top of wrong on top of wrong, and then we have a big stinking pile of effing wrong. Does that really help anybody? No. So what I concluded for myself is that it's time to let go of all of the wrong, all of it, like to be done with it. There's a book by David Hawkins, now deceased, but his book is called Letting Go. It's a little bit dry, it's a little bit academic, but it has some really good core thinking on this process of letting go of stuck emotion. Because this wrongness is not just a mental thing. I have a framework called Core Intelligence that talks about our four faculties, our four primary faculties, only one of which is our reasoning mind. The other three are imagination, intuition, and feeling. And each one of those has multiple layers to it. So anyway, I won't go into all of that here, but I think the important thing about this is that this wrongness is often stuck at a feeling level. If you go to people who do like Reiki healing or things like that, they would call it an energetic level. But it gets stuck. It's not just a reasoning stuckness. It's not just that we create these loops, these boxes of logic in our mind, but there are actually feelings that are associated with that. A feeling of being wrong is different than a thought of, oh, I am wrong. Okay, I can think that thought and be like, oh, well, whatever, I was wrong. No big deal. Or I can think that thought, oh, I was wrong. And there's like this heaviness that sets in. There's a difference between those two things. They're both the same thinking thought, both the same reasoning thought, but they are very different in their effect on us and our subsequent thinking thoughts. And it is letting go of that wrongness. I'll bet you, if we humans all worked together on letting go of some of that feeling of being wrong, of I am wrong, something is wrong with me, I somehow failed at a very fundamental level, if we could let go of that on a mass scale, imagine the world that we can build, and we will. This is the time of letting go of this stuff. And yeah, I just wanted to share that because it's been so powerful for me to realize how much that's embedded. All right. Well, thank you for listening. And please share your experiences with feeling wrong. Have you felt wronged? Have you felt like you were taught to be wrong from a very early age, like I was? I'm curious to hear. And while you're at it, please, if you would be willing to give a like, a subscribe, anything like that, that always helps get the word out there. All right, this is Morgan Giddings signing off. See you.